Okay, so recently I've been getting into Gunpla, and it's a pretty good break from all the Warhammer I've been building and painting. And it's a great way for me to take a look at a different perspective in terms of the model making hobby. And in this video, I'll be taking a look at and building the Master Grade Gundam Heavy Arms. Hey yo everyone, my name is Jessica and I talk about miniatures and Gunpla as a hobby. And today I wanted to feature a box in my backlog, the Master Grade Gundam Heavy Arms. And taking a look at the box, it's got a pretty good box art, featuring how much DACA the Gundam Heavy Arms has. It really lives up to its name. It's got missile launchers from head to toe, as well as a lot of fully automatic weaponry. Checking out the sides of the box, you can see the actual model as well as the different colors it came in. This is the anime accurate version, and it definitely shows off the model pretty well with water slides applied. It also lists down the weapons it comes with: the beam gatling, the army knife, beam sabers, the various miscellaneous weapons. It also comes with the 1/100th figure of the pilot. I'm not too familiar with Gundam Wing yet, so I can't really say who the pilot is. And it also comes with the water slide decals. And I gotta say, the guns out pose on the side of the box really does feature how cool the Heavy Arms can be. Now that we've checked out the box, let's check out the sprues. And checking out the sprues, there's not a lot that comes in the box, thankfully. I recently came out of building the third-party Kshatriya. It was a lot of work, so I am very happy to see that this only comes with 13 sprues altogether. And the color separation is pretty decent. It's definitely got some blues, a lot of reds, yellows, and of course the iconic Gundam White. Another little cool feature that comes with the box is the sort of belt that comes with the beam gatling. It's got a flexible plastic rubber material where you're supposed to slide the sort of belt building parts that make it flexible, but it attaches to the magazine and the beam gatling. So I cannot wait to build that. And speaking of building, let's move on to building the first part of the kit, the body. Like every Master Grade kit, this kit features a pilot within the kit, and that's the first thing that's built, and the rest builds around it. I gotta say, I wasn't too confident about the arm connection, given that it's just a very small peg that connects to the arms, and I'm hoping later on that it wouldn't give me any trouble. Next, after assembling the frame of the torso, you have the twin Gatling guns that are sort of hidden within the chest part. And I gotta say, even though this particular Gundam is equipped with a Gatling gun already, it's still got two twin Gatlings in its chest. I can't imagine how noisy the cockpit would be when that weapon is fired. Next, you have the doors to the chest that conceals the part separation for this is pretty clever. I really like the little blue accent on the grooves of the chest, and it makes the design stand out pretty well. Now that we have the chest done, let's move on to the head. Now, moving on to the head, it seems pretty easy. Now, it's literally just two sections of the instructions. We start off with the chin, and then moving on to the face. Now, I know there's instructions for adding stickers to make it green. However, I chose that the visor be left that clear, like clear plastic, since I wanna try painting it later on. Then you moving on to the sides of the faces. It's got a bit of accessories on it. It's got some antennas, which I hope I don't break later on, since I will be displaying it, and antennas tend to be very fragile, especially if they're built into where the connecting part is. Like this one is sideways, so I imagine one small drop is going to literally shatter this thing. So I need to be very careful. And after the side antennas on the left and right, we have the red front area where the V-fin is connecting, and of course we connect the V-fin and the top of the helmet, and there you go. It was pretty fast, pretty easy build for the head. Next is the arms, and the arms are pretty easy build. It does feature the hidden rockets on the shoulders, so there were quite a bit of pieces to attach, especially the little rocket heads that come into the little missile launcher slots. They were pretty easy to attach, thankfully. And of course, you've got the the back rockets as well, which was pretty cool to see. Like I'm pretty impressed that even the back of the shoulders have rockets. And of course, you've got the arm joints and the arm armor. Now, the build process is mirrored for both left and right, and I did this at the same time just to save me the trouble of redoing the instructions just mirrored later on. All in all, pretty straightforward. The hands aren't articulated, which is okay with me. I tend to dislike the articulated hands, especially for the Master Grade Suzabi. That was one of the ones I was impressed at first. However, the gimmick isn't as good as just having pre-molded hands, in my opinion. Now that we finished the arms, there's a little lore section. My copy is all in Japanese since this is a import from Japan, which is pretty common in my country. Now, after the lore bit, we move on to the waist. The waist comes in pretty standard. It's got a few polycaps to hold the torso and the legs. And I was pretty surprised to see that the build of the waist had some rockets into it. Since if the shoulder rockets and the chest Gatling doesn't get them, the waist rockets will. As for the building of the waist, it's pretty fast. It's pretty straightforward. Nothing gave me any trouble at all. It's got quite a few side skirts, and that was pretty much it. Like, it's a pretty fast build all in all. Next is the legs, which is the biggest part of the build. I think it's got the longest section, and I think that's mostly because of the leg rockets. And the legs inner frame were standard fare to me. I don't really think there's anything to write home about, but it was a pretty clean process all in all. I think the inner frame was pretty okay in detail, and then the color separation and part separation for the legs are pretty standard. However, where the build confused me a bit was the leg rockets, where there are some doors that really that I was confused about, and that I ended up mixing up the two different doors, and that ended up blocking the articulation for the rockets from opening. So that was something that I had to be careful about. But since the illustration was pretty straightforward, I just wasn't really able to catch this during the build process. However, it's a mistake easily corrected. However, I won't be using these rockets for the legs later on, as you'll see why. Now that the leg rockets are done, I just had to connect the feet to the legs and the rockets to the legs. And after the legs, there is another side skirt for the waist. And these also hold more rockets. So the Gundam Heavy Arms is really living up to its name. And after those additional side skirts are done, we move on to the backpack, which is pretty interesting to me because the backpack's sole purpose is to hold the beam Gatling parts. And it was pretty fast. The backpack build was no sweat at all. It's got quite a few parts, just another 2 sections on the manual. It's got 4 boosters, which I think is pretty standard fare for most Gundams. And after the backpack, we've got the mid connection of the torso and the waist, which completes the main body of the Gundam. And looking at it, it's pretty nice. I'm pretty happy to have finished this build. It didn't give me too much trouble, although there were a few confusing parts which were easily rectified for a build such as this. And moving on, we've got the weapons, which is the army knife, the shield, and the beam Gatling. Now, the army knife, pretty standard. It's just a small section that comes in 3 parts. It folds in. You could color the blade silver if you want, which I might be doing. I haven't quite decided yet, but maybe in the future I'll make an update video for it. Next is the shield. It comes in 2 parts. Not much color separation. I think the water slides would save that, but I haven't quite applied it. Next is the beam Gatling, which was the most interesting part of the build, I think, because the gun barrels are separated into 4 parts, and then you've got the front of the barrel that is sort of a cap to cap off the gun, and then we use 28 of these belt pieces to sort of slot on top of the flexible part I was talking about earlier. And that forms the belt that connects to the Gatling and the backpack of the Gatling, which connects to the magazine. And there you have it, the Gundam Heavy Arms. Now, I did have an add-on come in mid-build So I ended up building this third-party Eagle unit. And I received the wrong color for my heavy arms. I was supposed to receive the one that's accurate to the anime. However, I received the manga version, which is the blue. And the addition to that was I had changed out the leg missiles, and then added quite a bit more missiles on the shoulders and a sort of backtrack system on the legs, which I think is supposed to stabilize the Gundam Heavy Arms. However, this one doesn't sit quite flush on the ground, so I'm not going to pose it that way. And there you have it, the Gundam Heavy Arms. It was quite a refreshing build. I really enjoyed, as a guy coming from Warhammer and is dipping his toes into Gunpla, I think that I'm staying, given that it was a pretty enjoyable build experience. Not having to paint it is pretty good to me. Sometimes I don't feel like painting, which is why I have such a large tide of gray behind me. And I really like the fact that even without the water slides, which I will be applying later after I varnish the Gundam, I like how without the water slides it looks pretty good already. And all in all, I highly recommend if you are a fan of the Heavy Arms. I'm not quite of a fan of, I think, Gundam Wing. I haven't quite watched it. I'm still consuming some Gundam content from Universal Century, but I was pretty intrigued by the Gundam Wing cast, especially that I'm a fan of the Katoki mechs. So I am looking forward to building the rest of the kits. But that's it for now. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys next time. Once again, my name is Justika, and I talk about miniatures and Gunpla almost every day. Bye-bye.